Don't weep, Mom. Maybe that human can help us, whispered the little girl. The sky above Zithra was not like any sky Kiri had ever seen in her short 8 years. Shades of amber and violet streaked across the horizon, twisted by the thick clouds of dust and smoke rising from broken buildings. The air smelled sharp and bitter, carrying the scent of scorched metal and dry earth. Kiri clutched her mother's hand tightly as they moved through the rubble-strewn streets, trying to avoid the sharp edges of shattered metal and crumbling concrete. Her small feet made soft, crunching noises on the debris, and every sound around her felt like it could explode into danger. "Don't weep, Mom. Maybe that human can help us," Kiri whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. Her mother, Alara, looked up from where she had been crouched, her large eyes filled with exhaustion and worry. The wrinkles on her face were deeper than Kiri remembered, carved by years of hardship and loss. Alara shook her head slightly, trying to push away the fear that had settled into her bones. "Kiri, humans, they are strange, unpredictable. We do not know what they want." Her voice was gentle but firm, warning and hope tangled together. She brushed a strand of Kiri's hair from her face and squeezed her daughter's hand. But Kiri's curiosity was stronger than her fear. She had heard the stories whispered among the ruins, the tales of humans who could build, create, and survive where others would fail. They were clever, resilient, and full of ideas no Lurian could imagine. Humans were supposed to be rare visitors to Zithra, their appearances almost legendary. And yet, here one was, descending from the sky in a sleek, silver spacecraft that gleamed even in the dusty light. The ship's landing shook the ground slightly, sending tiny clouds of dust spiraling upward. Its doors opened smoothly and a figure stepped out. Kiri's breath caught. The human was tall, with skin pale against the orange light, eyes bright and alert. His uniform was clean, practical, and unlike anything Kiri had ever seen on her planet. He moved carefully, surveying the city with calm determination, as if he had studied its ruin before arriving. "Mom," Kiri whispered again, almost to herself. She felt a flutter of hope she hadn't known for years. Alara's lips pressed together tightly. She wanted to scold Kiri for being too curious, for daring to hope, but she also could not deny the spark that had ignited in her daughter's eyes. The human, whose name was Captain Elias Hart, carried no weapons that Alara could see. There were no signs of aggression in his posture, only focus. He began examining the nearby buildings, touching the metal and broken glass with a gloved hand, muttering softly to himself. Kiri watched, fascinated. Humans seemed to look at everything differently. Where Lurians saw broken walls, humans saw potential. Where Lurians saw rubble, humans saw building material. Kiri tugged on her mother's sleeve. Can we go closer?" she asked, voice full of wonder. Alara hesitated, looking around for danger. The city was mostly empty now, its inhabitants hiding, afraid. The rival factions that had fought over Zithra in the past years had left deep scars. Alara thought of the stories she had told Kiri, stories of families lost, of homes destroyed, of gardens burned by careless war. Could she trust this human? Could she allow her daughter to approach him? Before she could answer, Kiri had already started moving forward, her small steps quick but careful. Alara called after her, but something in her heart pulled her too. Slowly, almost unwillingly, she followed, scanning the skies and streets for danger. Captain Hart looked up at the sound of their approach. His eyes softened when he saw the small girl and her mother. He bent slightly, trying to make himself seem less intimidating. "Hello," he said in a voice calm and warm. "I am Captain Hart. I mean no harm." "My ship is here to help." Kiri's eyes widened. His words were strange and foreign, yet comforting. She stepped closer, curiosity overpowering caution. You can help us?" she asked. Hart nodded. "I can try. I've seen the damage here. I think we can make things better." Alara remained cautious, her arms folded protectively around her daughter. "Better how?" she asked. "We have tried everything we know. There is nothing left." The human's gaze swept over the ruins. "Not nothing. Just unfinished." His words were simple, but they carried a weight of promise. He looked at the broken machines, the cracked walls, the empty water channels. "You have a home here. You have tools and knowledge. I can help you use them in ways you haven't imagined." Kiri's heart leapt. She had dreamed of a solution, something that could make her mother smile again, something that could bring life back to the city. For the first time in a long time, she dared to hope. "Mom, maybe he really can help," she whispered. Alara sighed, her shoulders tense. The past had taught her to be careful, to expect the worst. But as she looked into Kiri's eager face, she felt a spark she had almost forgotten. Perhaps there was a chance. Over the next hours, Captain Hart began moving through the city with the mother and daughter, examining damaged structures, broken water lines, and power conduits. Kiri followed closely, asking questions, learning words from the human that sounded odd and exciting. She watched him touch a fallen panel and speak to a small device, and suddenly water began trickling through a nearby pipe. She gasped. Did you do that?" she asked, eyes wide with amazement. Hart smiled. "It's not just me, you already have the tools. You just need to know how to use them differently." Alara blinked in surprise. "We have tried everything we know," she said softly. "And that's exactly the problem," Hart replied. "Sometimes it's not what you know, but how you use it." Kiri's mind raced. Could they really rebuild? Could her tiny voice and small hands, with the guidance of this human, help repair the city? She felt a warmth spread through her chest. Perhaps humans were as extraordinary as the legends said. Perhaps hope was not gone. As evening fell, the humans set up a small, portable light, and the city around them began to glow softly. It was not much, but in the dim, dusty streets, it seemed like a miracle. Children peeked from behind broken walls, and adults whispered to each other, curious but cautious. They had heard of humans before, how they could survive impossible situations, solve problems no one else could, and inspire courage in others. Yet seeing one in person was something entirely different. Kiri sat near the glowing light, sketching in the dirt with a stick. She drew her city, her family, and a tiny figure beside them, the human standing tall, a protector and guide. Her mother watched silently, tears glistening in her eyes, not tears of fear but of cautious hope. "Tomorrow," Hart said quietly, "we start fixing the water system properly, and then the air, and then maybe we can grow food again, step by step." Kiri nodded, her eyes shone with excitement. "Step by step," she repeated. Alara looked at her daughter and then at the human. You may be different from us," she said, voice soft, "but perhaps you are what we need." The night grew quiet around the ruins of the city. Kiri lay close to her mother, listening to the hum of the human's small machines working, thinking about the days ahead. She felt something she had not felt in a long time, a spark of possibility. For the first time since the city fell, she believed that life could be better. And as the stars began to shine faintly through the dusty clouds, Kiri whispered again, "Don't weep, Mom. Maybe that human really can help us." Alara held her daughter close, letting herself imagine a brighter tomorrow. She knew it would not be easy. The city was broken, the past full of pain, and the future uncertain. But as she looked at the human working silently nearby, she realized something profound. Sometimes help comes from unexpected places. Sometimes hope can walk on two legs, speak in strange words, and teach the lost how to rebuild. Kiri drifted to sleep with a smile on her face, dreaming of water running through pipes, gardens growing in the ruins, and her city alive again. Alara watched over her, feeling a cautious warmth in her heart. Captain Hart adjusted his small device and nodded to himself. The first step had been taken, and though the road ahead was long, a seed of change had been planted. Above them, Zithra's sky shifted again, and though the clouds of dust remained, there was a sense of calm. Perhaps, just perhaps, humans could help after all. And perhaps, just perhaps, a little girl's whispered hope could change everything. The morning sun cast a soft orange glow over Zithra, illuminating the broken streets and damaged buildings that had become the everyday reality for its inhabitants. Kiri woke early, as usual, eager to see what Captain Hart would do today. She slipped quietly from under the thin blanket she shared with her mother and tiptoed toward the small glowing device Hart had left near the center of their makeshift camp. Its soft hum filled the air with a strange sense of calm. "Good morning, Kiri," Hart said as he noticed her approach. He was already kneeling beside a broken pipe, examining it carefully. "Did you sleep well?" Kiri nodded, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yes." "Did you fix anything while I was asleep?" Hart smiled. "Just a small thing. The water flow from that old storage tank is a little better now, not perfect, but better." Kiri's eyes sparkled. "Can I help today?" Hart looked at her seriously. "Yes, you can help. But first, you must understand what we are doing and why. Fixing a city is not just about moving things. It's about seeing what others have missed, understanding how everything connects, and working together." Kiri nodded eagerly, ready to learn. Her mother watched from a distance, arms folded, still uncertain about trusting the human fully. But seeing her daughter's enthusiasm, Alara felt a flicker of hope she had not felt in years. The three of them moved through the streets, Kiri leading the way with small but steady steps. She pointed out areas where water had once flowed freely, now clogged by rubble. She showed Hart the remnants of gardens that had failed after the last attack, and the half-collapsed homes where families still tried to survive. Hart listened carefully, taking notes, occasionally touching pieces of machinery and explaining in simple words what could be done. "This pipe is broken here," Hart said, kneeling beside a twisted metal line. "If we clean it, patch it, and add a small pump here, water can flow again. It will not be perfect, but it will reach more homes than before." Kiri's hands itched to help. "Show me. I want to do it." Hart smiled. "First watch, then try. Mistakes are okay as long as we learn from them." Alara hesitated but finally stepped closer. "Be careful, Kiri." Kiri crouched beside Hart and watched closely as he demonstrated how to remove the debris and connect the pipe. He worked with precision but also patiently, explaining each step. "See, Kiri," he said, "it's not about strength, it's about thinking and understanding. Sometimes a small idea can make a big difference." Hours passed, and slowly, under Hart's guidance, the water began to flow again. It was weak at first, a mere trickle, but Kiri could feel the excitement building. She held her mother's hand, pointing to the water as it reached homes that had been dry for months. "Look, Mom." "It's working," she exclaimed. Alara allowed herself a small smile. "Yes, it is working. Maybe he really can help." Word spread quickly through the city that a human had arrived and was helping the residents. Curiosity overcame fear for some, and they began to gather around, watching Hart and Kiri work. Some children came closer, peering over Kiri's shoulder, asking questions. Hart encouraged them, showing them how small actions could lead to results. "It's amazing," Kiri whispered to her mother. "He doesn't just fix things, he teaches us to do it ourselves." Alara nodded slowly. She had spent years trying to survive, always working alone, always wary of others. Yet here was someone who inspired not fear, but hope, teaching her daughter and the other children to see possibility where before there had been only ruin. As the sun climbed higher, Hart led the group to an old building that had once been a community center. Its walls were cracked and the roof had partially collapsed, but Hart saw potential. "This could be a safe place for meetings," he said. "We can repair the roof, clean the floors, and create a small space for everyone to gather." Kiri's eyes widened. We could have a place to learn and play again?" "Yes," Hart said, "and you can help lead it." The idea filled Kiri with excitement. She ran ahead, imagining tables, books, and children laughing. Alara followed, quietly observing. She had never allowed herself to imagine such things before, not in a city broken by war. For the rest of the day, the three of them worked tirelessly. Kiri learned to carry small tools, clean debris, and even help patch minor cracks in the walls. She struggled at first, but Hart encouraged her. "It's okay to be unsure," he said. "Step by step, we will get there." As the sun began to set, Hart gathered the residents who had come to watch. He spoke in a simple, calm voice. "I am here to help, but I cannot do it alone. You have knowledge, courage, and ideas. Together, we can rebuild this city, make it safe, and make it grow again. We need each other." Some adults murmured, skeptical. They had lived through betrayals and losses. Trust was not easy. But they also saw the small successes, the water flowing again, the children learning, the first signs of repair. Slowly, hope began to take root. Kiri's mother stood beside her, listening. Alara's heart swelled as she realized her daughter was growing braver and stronger each day. The human had not just fixed a pipe. He had sparked courage and curiosity in her child, and that was far more valuable. Night fell, and the city settled into an uneasy calm. The stars peeked through the remaining clouds, tiny points of light in the dusty sky. Kiri sat beside Hart, helping him organize small tools and explain what each could do. She asked endless questions, absorbing every word. Hart looked at her thoughtfully. "Kiri, you have a very important role. You are learning quickly, and soon you will be able to teach others. That is how a city survives, not just through strength, but through knowledge and cooperation." Kiri smiled. "I want to help everyone like you." "You already are," Hart said, ruffling her hair gently. "Step by step, we are all helping each other." Alara watched silently, feeling a mixture of awe and gratitude. Her daughter was discovering skills and courage that she had never seen. The human had brought more than tools and ideas. He had brought inspiration. The next morning, Hart led Kiri and a few other children to a small, overgrown garden. The plants were weak, barely clinging to life, but Hart knelt beside them. "See these plants. They are tired but not dead. If we care for them, water them, and give them sunlight, they will grow stronger. People are like these plants. They need care, guidance, and hope." Kiri listened carefully. "So we can make the city grow too?" Hart nodded. "Yes. And you can lead that growth. It's not just about fixing what is broken. It's about imagining what can be and then making it real." The children began to clear the garden, working together under Kiri's guidance. She showed them how to remove weeds and broken stems, how to carefully water the fragile plants, and how to watch for changes. The humans' methods were different from anything the Lurians had done before, but they were effective. Slowly, tiny shoots began to stand taller, leaves unfurling toward the light. Alara watched from the side, her eyes moist. Her daughter was not just learning to survive. She was learning to create, to lead, to inspire. And for the first time, Alara felt that perhaps their city, broken and scarred as it was, could truly come back to life. Word spread further across Zithra. More residents came to see the human who taught children to think differently, who showed adults that small changes could have great impact. Some still whispered doubts, some still feared outsiders, but the spark of curiosity and hope had ignited, and it was beginning to grow. By evening, Hart had helped restore the first reliable flow of water to several homes. The children returned from the garden with their small harvests of leaves and sprouts. Kiri could hardly contain her excitement, showing her mother what they had grown. Alara hugged her daughter tightly. "You were right, Kiri. Maybe humans can help us after all." Kiri grinned. "I told you, Mom, we just need to learn step by step." Hart watched the scene quietly, smiling to himself. He knew the road ahead was long and would not be without challenges, but he also knew that this was exactly how civilizations survived, through patience, learning, and the courage to hope. Night fell, and Zithra's sky turned a deep shade of violet. The city was still broken, the streets still dusty, and the air still sharp with the scent of old fires. But there was a change in the atmosphere, a quiet energy that spoke of possibility. Kiri lay down to sleep that night, her mind buzzing with plans and dreams, her heart filled with hope. Alara sat beside her, silently thanking the human who had arrived on their world, not with weapons, but with ideas, guidance, and belief. She realized that perhaps the future of Zithra did not rest in power or strength alone, but in the ability to imagine, to teach, and to inspire. And so the city slept under a blanket of stars, unaware that the first small steps of a great change had begun. The next morning on Zithra, the city was alive with small movements of hope. Kiri and the children were already tending to the tiny garden, their hands careful and precise. Water flowed steadily through the pipes that Hart had helped repair, reaching homes that had been dry for months. Alara watched from a distance, her eyes scanning the horizon, still cautious. She had learned to hope, but hope on Zithra was fragile. Captain Hart moved through the city with quiet purpose. He checked the newly repaired systems, adjusted small devices, and spoke to the residents about safety and collaboration. He had begun to teach them basic methods of problem-solving, ways to work together and avoid mistakes that could worsen the fragile infrastructure. Kiri approached him with a small notebook in hand, filled with sketches and notes. "Look, Captain Hart," she said, "I drew the water pipes and I wrote how we can fix the other streets too." Hart knelt beside her, studying the sketches. "Excellent work, Kiri. This shows understanding, not just observation. You are learning quickly, and soon you will be able to teach others too." Kiri's chest swelled with pride. She loved learning from Hart, but more than that, she loved seeing how small efforts could make a difference. The garden, the flowing water, the clean streets, these were small victories, but they felt monumental in a city that had known only loss. Alara joined them, carrying a basket of small vegetables and leaves the children had harvested. "You have done well, Kiri," she said. "And I see the city is changing. Perhaps this human really can help." Hart smiled, appreciating the quiet acknowledgement. "It is not just me, it is all of you. Cooperation is the most important tool we have." Just as hope seemed to bloom, a shadow appeared on the horizon. Dark shapes moved swiftly through the outskirts of the city. Hart noticed first, his eyes narrowing as he studied the movement. "Kiri," he said softly, "stay close to your mother. I need to check something." Alara instinctively pulled Kiri behind her, her body tense. "What is it?" she asked. Hart pointed toward the approaching figures. Those are not city residents. They are Vyerk scouts. They are a rival alien faction. They may have come to attack or take control. We need to be careful. Kiri felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard stories of the Vyerks, their cruelty, their skill in taking what they wanted, and their willingness to destroy everything in their path. She had never seen them in person. Her small hand gripped her mother's tightly. Alara's face paled. How can we stop them? We are few and they are many. Hart crouched beside them, speaking in a calm but firm tone. We will not fight with weapons. That is too dangerous, but we can be smart. We can protect our homes using what we have, cleverness and strategy. Humans are not always strongest by force, but by thinking ahead. The Vyerk scouts drew closer, their shapes becoming clearer against the rising sun. They were tall and imposing, with sleek black armor and piercing red eyes. The city residents who had begun venturing out for the day froze, fear taking hold of their hearts. Hart led Kiri and Alara to a slightly elevated platform where he could get a better view. We need to prepare, he said. We must show them that we are not helpless. If they think we are weak, they will try to take over, but if they see we are organized and clever, they may hesitate. Kiri's mind raced. But what can we do? She asked. We are just children and women. How can we stop them? Hart's eyes softened. You are not just anything. You are part of a community, and communities are stronger than individuals. Even small actions can have a big impact if everyone works together. He called a meeting of the residents, speaking to them with calm authority. The Vyerks are approaching, he said. We will not fight them with weapons. We will fight them with cleverness and preparation. We will protect our homes, our families, and our city. Everyone has a role, children, adults, everyone. Together, we are strong. The Lurians looked at each other, uncertain. Hart could see the fear and doubt in their eyes, but he also saw the spark of determination that came when they realized they had a choice. Kiri stood beside him, her small presence a symbol of courage and hope. Hart divided the residents into groups. One group would reinforce weak walls using debris and makeshift barriers. Another would set up simple signals and alarms to alert the city if the Vyerks attempted to enter. The children, guided by Kiri, would help with communication, carrying messages and keeping watch. As the preparations began, the Vyerk scouts stopped at the edge of the city, observing the activity. They did not expect resistance. The city had been weak for years. But they saw the organized movements, the careful planning, and the children actively participating. Hart's strategy was simple but effective: show intelligence, cooperation, and readiness, not aggression. Kiri ran between groups, guiding the children, explaining what to do and encouraging them. Keep your eyes open, she shouted. Stay calm, we can do this together. Alara worked alongside other adults, strengthening walls and helping set up barriers. The physical work was hard, but it gave the residents a sense of purpose. They were not helpless. They were part of the city's defense, using brains instead of weapons. Hart moved silently among them, giving advice and adjusting strategies. He noticed small details others had overlooked: a weak wall near the water supply, a gap in the signaling system, an overgrown path that could allow an enemy to sneak through. He addressed each issue with calm efficiency, teaching the residents to see and think critically. The Vyerk scouts advanced slightly, testing the city's response. Kiri and the children raised alarms, banging on metal sheets and waving flags. Hart had taught them signals that confused the Vyerks, making them hesitate. Adults reinforced weak points and moved quickly to block potential paths. The Vyerks realized they were not facing a helpless city. They paused, unsure how to proceed. Hart took this moment to step forward slightly, visible but calm. He did not raise weapons or shout threats. He simply showed confidence and determination, standing tall with the residents behind him. Kiri's heart pounded in her chest. She had never been this close to danger, yet she felt no fear. She felt the power of cooperation, the strength that came from working together, and the quiet brilliance of human ingenuity that Hart had brought. Hours passed. The Vyerk scouts tested the city at various points, but every attempt to advance was met with clever resistance: barriers, alarms, signals, and coordinated actions by the residents. Hart guided them, ensuring mistakes were corrected quickly. By evening, the Vyerks had retreated, realizing that this city was not an easy target. They did not understand the strength that came from intelligence, organization, and hope. They did not expect that a human could teach a small population to defend themselves without weapons. The residents cheered quietly, relief washing over them. Kiri hugged her mother tightly, her small frame trembling with exhaustion and excitement. "We did it," she whispered. Alara smiled, tears of pride in her eyes. "Yes, we did it. You were brave, Kiri." "And this human, he helped us see what we could do." Hart knelt beside them. "You all did it. I only guided you. The courage, intelligence, and cooperation came from you. That is the true power of a community." The children celebrated in small ways, carrying water, helping repair minor damage, and sharing smiles with each other. Kiri felt a surge of pride. She had faced fear and danger and learned that small, careful actions could protect a city. Night fell and Zithra's sky turned a deep indigo. Stars twinkled faintly through the dusty clouds, casting light on the repaired streets. Kiri lay close to her mother, exhausted but proud. Alara held her tightly, feeling a strength in her daughter she had never seen before. Hart walked through the city one last time that night, checking the barriers and the systems they had reinforced. He knew this was only the beginning. The Vierks would not give up forever, but now the residents of Zithra had learned something invaluable. Courage was not about strength alone, and victory did not require violence. It required intelligence, cooperation, and hope. Kiri drifted to sleep that night dreaming of growing gardens, flowing water, and a city alive with laughter and energy. She imagined the next day, when they would rebuild more, learn more, and continue to grow stronger together. Alara whispered softly, brushing Kiri's hair from her face. "You have learned much, my little one, and you have taught me, too, that hope can survive even in the darkest places." Hart watched from a distance, a quiet smile on his face. He knew the journey ahead would be long, filled with challenges and threats, but he also knew that Zithra had discovered its own power. And sometimes, that was the most important thing of all. The city slept under a blanket of stars, secure for the night. The threat of the Vierks lingered, but so did the spark of intelligence, courage, and cooperation that Hart had nurtured. Zithra had taken its first steps toward reclaiming its future, and a little girl's whispered hope had grown into a quiet, unshakable strength. Morning arrived over Zithra with a calm, golden light spilling across the city. The attacks of the Vierks had passed for now, leaving a sense of cautious relief among the residents. Kiri woke early, as she always did, her small heart beating with excitement for the day ahead. She ran to Hart, who was already examining the small water pump they had repaired yesterday. "Good morning, Kiri," Hart said, smiling. "Today we continue. There is much to do." Kiri nodded eagerly, brushing past him to gather the small tools she and her friends had been using. "I want to help rebuild everything. The walls, the gardens, the streets." Alara watched her daughter, pride swelling in her chest. Her little girl had grown so much in just a few days. Kiri's bravery during the Vierks test, her curiosity, and her willingness to learn had changed something in the city as well. Alara had seen adults smiling again, working together, and even laughing quietly for the first time in years. Hart called the residents to a small, open square in the center of the city. He had prepared a plan to rebuild key areas using simple, safe technologies combined with what the Lurians already knew. "We start today with the roofed buildings," he said. "Some are still unsafe, but if we fix them step by step, we can create spaces for learning, growing food, and gathering safely." The residents nodded, some skeptically, some with hope, and Kiri's eyes lit up. She gathered the children around her, teaching them the small lessons Hart had shown her: how to carry tools carefully, how to measure and check for weak points, and how to work together without rushing. "Remember," Hart said, addressing everyone, "small steps matter. Fix one problem carefully, and then move to the next. Mistakes are okay if we learn from them. Together, we can do more than we imagine." The day began with the children and adults working together under Hart's guidance. Kiri helped guide a group of young Lurians, showing them how to strengthen walls using salvaged materials. She explained how to check for cracks, how to align supports properly, and how to make sure the repairs would hold. Alara joined the adults repairing the roof of the community center. Hart showed them how to weave small metal beams and old panels into the structure to make it more stable without heavy machinery. The work was hard, but every repaired wall, every strengthened beam felt like a victory. By midday, the first building had a strong roof and secure walls. Children ran inside, laughing, imagining it as a place to learn and play. Kiri's heart swelled with pride. She had helped make this possible. Hart moved among the groups, checking the progress, offering advice, and quietly teaching new techniques. He showed them how to purify water using simple filtration systems, how to repair small electrical conduits, and how to make communication signals to coordinate citywide activities. Every small skill he taught was meant to empower them, not make them dependent on him. The adults were cautious at first, unsure if these new methods would work. But seeing the results, their skepticism turned to amazement. Walls that had seemed hopelessly weak were now stable. Water that had been scarce now reached several homes. Even small gardens were beginning to bloom again under Kiri's and Hart's guidance. Kiri paused for a moment, looking around at the busy city. The streets, though still dusty and damaged, were filled with movement and life. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This city was theirs, and now, with the humans' guidance, it was becoming a place of hope again. Alara approached Kiri, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You have learned so much, my little one, and you have taught the others too. Look at what you have accomplished." Kiri grinned. "I'm not the only one. Everyone is helping, and Captain Hart, he is teaching us things we never knew." Hart overheard and nodded. "The best leaders are learners, and the best learners teach others. That is how a community grows stronger." As the sun moved higher, Hart led a group to the small garden they had started before. He explained the concept of crop rotation and sunlight optimization in simple terms. The children helped plant new seeds, learning how to care for them, water them efficiently, and protect them from the harsh environment. Kiri guided her group, teaching them how to watch for signs of growth or problems. "See these leaves?" she asked. "If they look dry or wilted, we water them carefully. If we rush, we can hurt them. We must be patient and gentle." The adults joined, learning from the children as much as they were learning from Hart. There was laughter and chatter, a sound that had been missing in the city for years. Even Alara allowed herself a small smile, seeing how the community was rebuilding not just physically, but emotionally. By late afternoon, the city had achieved significant progress. Two major buildings were partially restored, water systems were functioning better than before, and the garden was showing signs of life. Kiri and the children carried baskets of fresh leaves and vegetables to the central square, sharing them with the residents. Hart gathered everyone together. "Today, you have rebuilt more than walls and gardens. You have rebuilt trust, hope, and cooperation. These are stronger than any material, and they will help you face challenges in the future." The residents cheered, some clapping, some hugging each other. Kiri's heart felt light. She had seen fear and sadness in this city, but now there was energy, curiosity, and determination. She knew there was still work to do, but the first steps had been taken. As evening fell, the residents gathered in the repaired community center for a quiet moment. Hart spoke to them in his calm, steady voice. "Remember, progress takes time. Each day, small actions create change. You have the skills, the knowledge, and the courage. Continue learning, continue helping each other, and the city will thrive again." Kiri sat near the front, listening intently. She had never felt so proud. She realized that learning from Hart was not just about fixing the city. It was about understanding that even in the darkest times, hope and intelligence could lead to remarkable outcomes. Alara hugged her daughter gently. "You are growing so fast, Kiri. Your courage, your leadership, it gives me strength." Kiri smiled shyly. "I'm learning from Captain Hart, but I think we all are learning from each other." Hart nodded, satisfied. He knew that the city was beginning to understand the true power of humans' approach, not through force or domination, but through teaching, cooperation, and clever problem-solving. Zithra was no longer just surviving, it was beginning to thrive. The next morning brought another challenge, but this time, the residents were prepared. A sudden storm swept across the city, strong winds and rain threatening the fragile repairs. Kiri and the children worked quickly to secure the garden, protect young plants, and help the adults reinforce temporary structures. Hart guided them calmly, explaining how to use simple methods to prevent damage. "See, small adjustments now prevent big problems later," he said. "You can handle this together." By the end of the storm, the city had weathered it with minimal damage. The residents were amazed at their own capability. Kiri looked at the repaired walls and strong garden beds, feeling proud and capable. Alara approached Hart, her voice quiet but sincere. "You have taught us more than we ever knew, not just tools, not just systems. You have taught us to believe in ourselves." Hart smiled. "I only showed you what you already had. You were capable all along." You just needed guidance and sometimes someone to believe in you first. Kiri ran ahead, carrying water to the newly repaired homes, helping the children distribute food and teaching them small lessons she had learned. Her confidence had grown, and the other children looked up to her as a leader. By evening, the city had a sense of calm, a rare feeling for a place that had known only chaos. Residents gathered to share stories, food, and laughter. Hart observed quietly, knowing that these bonds, trust, cooperation, and hope were more important than any repaired building or tool. Kiri sat beside her mother, holding a small sprout she had planted. "Mom, look, it is growing just like the city." Alara smiled, tears in her eyes. "Yes, Kiri, just like the city and just like you." Hart looked at the girl, proud of her curiosity, courage, and determination. He knew that the real legacy of his time on Zithra would not be the repairs he made or the systems he installed, but the knowledge and hope he had shared. The Lurians were learning to think differently, to collaborate, and to create a future for themselves. As night fell, Zithra glimmered under the stars. The city, though still scarred and fragile, was alive with energy, cooperation, and hope. Kiri lay down that night, exhausted but proud. She dreamed of gardens, flowing water, repaired buildings, and a city full of life. Alara watched her daughter sleep, feeling a deep sense of pride and gratitude. Captain Hart had brought them more than technology. He had brought the knowledge that even in a broken world, intelligence, cooperation, and hope could rebuild everything. And as the wind whispered softly through the repaired streets, Kiri whispered in her dreams, "We can do it, step by step, together." The sun rose over Zithra, spilling soft golden light across streets that had begun to feel alive once more. The city, though still scarred from years of destruction, held a quiet strength. Buildings were reinforced, gardens were growing, and the hum of flowing water filled the air. Kiri woke early, her eyes bright with excitement. Today felt important. She could feel it in the energy of the city, in the whispers and laughter of neighbors, and in the determined faces of her mother and friends. Captain Hart was already awake, inspecting the repaired water lines and communicating with small devices that helped him monitor the city's systems. He had spent months guiding the residents, teaching them to solve problems carefully, step by step, and always thinking ahead. Today he was checking one last system before the final stage of their rebuilding efforts. "Good morning, Kiri," he said, smiling. "Are you ready for today?" Kiri nodded eagerly. "Yes, today we finish the walls and the big gardens. We make the city strong." Alara joined them, carrying baskets of tools and supplies. Her face reflected cautious optimism. She had seen Kiri grow from a scared, whispering child into a leader who inspired others. The lessons Hart had taught them had transformed the city and its people. Alara finally allowed herself to believe that Zithra could thrive again. Hart gathered the residents in the main square. "Today," he said, "we finish what we started. We strengthen the city, ensure safety, and prepare for the future. But remember, the most important strength is not walls or water. It is your courage, your intelligence, and your ability to work together." The residents listened closely. Adults and children alike had learned to cooperate in ways they never thought possible. Each person had a role, each task was important, and each contribution mattered. Hart's methods had taught them that strength came not from fighting, but from cleverness, preparation, and unity. Kiri ran ahead with a group of children, excited to oversee the final gardens. She explained how to plant seeds efficiently, care for them during storms, and use simple systems to track growth. The children listened carefully, eager to apply what they had learned. Even the adults joined in, placing small barriers around the plants, clearing debris, and helping the young ones work safely. Hart moved among the adults, checking walls, roofs, and water lines. He demonstrated small improvements that made structures more stable without heavy machinery. Residents watched, learned, and applied the lessons themselves. It was as if the city itself had begun to breathe, alive with the rhythm of shared work and knowledge. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the outskirts of the city. Hart noticed first, his eyes narrowing. "Kiri, stay close to your mother," he said calmly. "We may have visitors." Alara instinctively grabbed Kiri's hand, feeling a flutter of anxiety, but Hart's calmness reassured her. "Do not fear," he said. "We are ready, we have learned, and we will use what we know." The shadow resolved into the familiar shapes of Vierk scouts, cautiously approaching the city once more. This time, however, the difference was clear. The city was prepared. Barriers were reinforced, Alarm signals were active, and residents were organized in strategic positions. Kiri stood near the front, helping signal warnings and guiding children to safe spots. Hart addressed the residents quietly but firmly. Remember, we do not fight with weapons. Show them intelligence, cooperation, and readiness. Let them see the city's strength. The Vyark scouts hesitated, noting the organized defenses. They expected fear, confusion, and chaos. Instead, they saw order, determination, and clever tactics. The small human had taught the city to think ahead, anticipate problems, and act strategically without aggression. Kiri's heart pounded. She felt the tension in the air, but also a strange sense of power. Step by step, she guided children and adults alike, signaling alarms, reinforcing weak spots, and communicating messages between groups. Every small action mattered. The Vyarks tested the defenses cautiously. They tried to move closer to the water supply, but a clever trap set by Hart's guidance blocked their path. They attempted to approach the community center, only to encounter reinforced walls and strategically placed barriers. Each move they made was met with resistance, not violent but intelligent and coordinated. Hours passed, and the Vyark scouts realized the city was no longer weak or helpless. They had underestimated the residents' capacity to learn, adapt, and protect themselves. Slowly, they began to retreat, their strategy defeated not by force but by cleverness, preparation, and unity. The residents cheered quietly as the Vyarks disappeared from sight. Kiri hugged her mother tightly, her small body trembling with relief and pride. "We did it." "The city is safe," Alara smiled, tears in her eyes. "Yes, my little one, we are safe, and you have grown so much. You were brave, and you led others with wisdom." Hart joined them, kneeling beside Kiri. "You all did it," he said. "I only guided you. The courage, intelligence, and cooperation came from you. That is the true strength of a community." The city's residents gathered together in the main square, sharing stories of the past days, of challenges overcome and lessons learned. Laughter returned, small but genuine, a sound the city had not heard in years. Kiri ran between groups, helping children share supplies, explaining small lessons she had learned, and encouraging everyone to continue working together. By midday, the last major repairs were completed. The community center was fully restored, providing a safe space for meetings, education, and gatherings. Gardens were thriving, with vegetables and herbs growing in neat rows. Water systems flowed steadily, reaching every corner of the city. Even the streets, though still dusty, were safe to walk and filled with life. Alara watched quietly, feeling a deep sense of pride and gratitude. Her daughter had become a leader, and the human had brought wisdom and guidance that transformed the city. Zithra was no longer just surviving, it was thriving. Hart addressed the city one last time before he prepared to leave. "You have accomplished something extraordinary," he said. "You have learned to work together, think ahead, and use knowledge to solve problems. These lessons will carry you into the future. Zithra is strong because of you, not because of me." Kiri ran forward, holding a small basket of vegetables. "Captain Hart, thank you. You taught us so much. We will continue to grow and protect our city." Hart smiled, ruffling her hair gently. "I know you will, Kiri. You have the courage, intelligence, and heart to lead others." "The city is in good hands." Alara approached, placing a hand on Hart's shoulder. "You came into our world and showed us more than we thought possible. You gave us hope and strength. For that, we are grateful." Hart nodded, his expression quiet but satisfied. "I only showed you what you already had. You needed guidance and sometimes someone to believe in you first. The rest, your courage, creativity, and cooperation, was always within you." Kiri looked around at the city she had helped rebuild. Children ran through the streets, carrying water, tending gardens, and helping with repairs. Adults worked together, sharing knowledge and skills. The energy and optimism were contagious. For the first time in her life, Kiri felt that the city could thrive and that nothing, no enemy, no disaster could destroy it if they worked together. Hart prepared to leave Zithra, boarding his sleek silver spacecraft. The residents gathered to watch, waving and cheering. Kiri ran to the ship, waving her small hand. "Goodbye, Captain Hart. Thank you for everything." Hart waved back. "Goodbye, Kiri. Continue learning, continue teaching, and never stop believing in yourselves." As the ship lifted into the sky, Kiri turned to her mother. "Mom, see. Humans can help us, they teach us, but they also make us strong." Alara hugged her daughter tightly, feeling tears of joy and relief. "Yes, Kiri, you were right. We can do anything together." The sun began to set over Zithra, casting long shadows across the repaired streets and thriving gardens. The city, once broken and full of despair, now pulsed with life and hope. Kiri stood at the center of the city, looking at the smiling faces of residents and children learning, playing, and working together. She felt a surge of pride and determination. The nights that followed were calm. The city had learned to organize, communicate, and protect itself. Even the possibility of the Vierks returning was met with confidence rather than fear. Kiri continued her lessons with other children, sharing the wisdom she had learned from Hart, while Alara helped coordinate adults to ensure the city's continued growth. Days turned into weeks, and Zithra flourished. Gardens expanded, homes were rebuilt, and water and energy systems worked efficiently. The residents had discovered a power they had never known, the power of intelligence, cooperation, and hope. Kiri grew stronger, wiser, and more confident each day, a symbol of the city's rebirth. One evening, Kiri whispered to her mother as they watched the sunset together. "Don't weep, Mom, we are safe. The city is strong. We can do anything if we work together." Alara smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Yes, my little one, and you have shown us all the way." Hart's teachings remained not in him, but in the city itself. Zithra had learned that even in the darkest times, courage, knowledge, and unity could overcome fear and destruction. The human had come and gone, but the lessons endured. As the stars appeared in the clear night sky, Kiri looked up and imagined the future, a city alive with laughter, learning, and growth. She knew challenges would come, but she also knew that the people of Zithra were ready. Together, they could face anything. And in that moment, Kiri whispered softly, "Step by step, together, we can make this world beautiful again." The city slept peacefully under the stars, no longer broken, no longer fearful. Hope had returned, stronger than ever. And Kiri, the little girl who had whispered words of hope, had become the symbol of Zithra's strength and future.